Okay, folks, it's 12:30. Let's start. Do we have everybody out of the kitchen?
Dr. Sinnott.
Director Kerr. We have confirmation of quorum.
We do.
We'll call the meeting to order. First, before we start and we go around everything, I just wanted to give a big shout out to the SRD staff for the Just Like Homes. It was incredible. It was well put together. It was a beautiful presentation of this new building. So thank you very much. It's just excellent work. We are located on the traditional territory of the Liquitich people. Adoption of public agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to move to amend the agenda to vary it and move item number 2 under bylaws to at the beginning of staff reports. And that's just to be respectful of people's time who are here to observe, and then allow the audience to leave if they wish, and we can conduct the rest of the business on this busy agenda without interruption.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
Get after it.
Petition and delegations. Chief Rob Everson, please. How are you?
Gelakasla, Gelakas Daukala. At first, I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Liquicta people, land that historically has been occupied by the Comox people before the Liquicta people. And I'd like to express my gratitude for everyone at this table, the chair, for allowing me to come and really have a frank discussion. About a year ago, and today is all about a year ago, I sent everyone from on the North Island a copy of this little booklet that was created by myself and my oldest daughter, Keisha. And it really speaks to the history of colonization in our country, in our province, locally here in the North Island. And I'm hoping that each and every one of you has had a chance to at least maybe briefly go through it and look at some of the information that's contained within, because I believe that we're at a crossroads in this country with regards to Aboriginal rights, Aboriginal title, and I think that the more and the more proactive we are and active we are in understanding the history of this country, where we are, how we got here, it really enables us to have full discussions with people around the table such as this and engaging Indigenous communities. I'm the hereditary chief of the Gigalgamwalas Quelguth from the Port Hardy area. I'm also a hereditary chief of the Pentlach people, and my family has been close with the families up and down this island, including the Henderson family here. My grandfather was very close with Sam Henderson, and they spent a lot of time working collaboratively to try to bring awareness to non-Indigenous people about the land on which they are living. Yeah, when I was a small child, when my grandfather was still alive back in the 60s, I remember coming to the Campbell River area, but long before there was ever a big house in the Campbell River area, and going down to the Tyee Park and dancing and singing with my grandparents and acknowledging the history, the rich history of this area. And so I'm here to talk to you just briefly, and I think I have 3 hours, I think. So I'll try to get us out of here by 3:30, 4 o'clock. I don't think I have that long, do I? I have about, okay, he said 10 hours, which might be a little bit, which we're pushing it, but I could do it, I think. when we look at where we are as a country, when we look at where we are as a province, we're faced with a lot of questions. Right now at the forefront of everyone's mind, of course, is the country south of our border and this notion that they can take us over and just assume authority over this sovereign nation. When we look at this booklet talking about cultural erasure, it really speaks to the fact that those first settlers that came across the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans were much like the United States in exercising their authority over the people that have inhabited that land for hundreds and thousands of years. So when you think of where we are today and the emotional response that each and every one of us has when posed with problems of subjugation, that emotional response that each and every one of you have, that, oh, you're just going to be a token citizen of a country south of the border. For most of us, it does not evoke a positive response. For most of us, it gets us upset because we have a rich history as a country. We have fought in 2 world wars. We have stood up for human rights around the world. We have stood in unity against tyranny, against oppressive, evil forces from around the world. And I think that is the emotion that we have to start thinking about when we start thinking about how do Indigenous people feel when we do not acknowledge the land on which we live. And when we look at this country's rich history and we look at where we are today, because the other issue that we're faced with today is rights and title. Title to land. The Cowichan decision from a year ago today, or this month, speaks to that fact and the emotion that many of us feel with regards to title on land. How does that happen? How did we get here? Well, we got here because the country of England, back in 1763, acknowledged Indigenous peoples and Indigenous ownership of land. And then when Canada decided to become a country and go its own way, it erased that arbitrarily, without consultation, without talking to anyone. In 1867, when the country of Canada was born under the British North American Act, Canada as a country erased the ownership of that land. But it also made a promise to Indigenous people. And under the British North American Act, when Canada became a country, Indigenous people became wards of this country. The responsibility inherently of this country across this great land. So when we think about rights and title, and this booklet here talks about many of the Supreme Court cases that have gone on over the past 50 plus years. In 1973, Chief Frank Calder challenged the province of British Columbia because the province, digging holes and cutting trees and extracting resources within the Nisga'a territory, was creating issues that the chiefs of the Nisga'a people recognized. And they said to the province of British Columbia that you gotta quit wrecking our world. We have rights. The province said to Chief Frank Calder that you don't have rights. They were erased when we became a country. When we made you a ward of this country, they were erased when we created the Indian Act in 1876. And Chief Frank Calder said, oh yeah? I don't think so. And he went to court to fight that tyranny. And he won that court case. And in 1973, the courts determined that Aboriginal rights and title have existed before contact and certainly before the assertion of British sovereignty in 1846. And for those of you who don't know, 1846 is that, quoting a leader of the country south of our border, when 2 countries came together and drew an imaginary line across the continent called the 49th parallel. country of England and the country of the United States on a map defining sovereignty for those two nations. So in 1973, under that one Supreme Court case, which many Supreme Court cases have been won and fought over the many years, there's a couple of really important things that we can glean out of that one court case. Aboriginal title and rights existed at the time of contact, before British sovereignty, before Canada became a country, before British Columbia ever became a province, and certainly before the Indian Act was ever forced on Indigenous peoples. So it does beg the question, who speaks for title and rights today? Is it the Indian bands? Is it the elected chief and council for the Indian bands that operate, that are elected under the Indian Act that was implemented, forced on Indigenous people in 1876, or is it someone else? I'm of the belief that I think it's someone else. And that's what this booklet's all about. It talks about the history of this country, talks about Supreme Court decisions, talks about where we are, how we got here, and gives us a glimpse into the future and how we can navigate that future collaboratively together. I believe strongly that those traditional families, those hereditary rights, they mean something. If the Supreme Court said that rights and title existed before Canada ever became a country, then certainly those title and rights existed at that time with those hereditary families, those traditional leaders. And I would argue that through our systems, our systems of Indigenous governance, they still exist to this day. They have never been erased. Even though our country has tried judiciously very hard to erase Indigenous people across this land. So I would just say that when we start to work with, continue to work with, collaborate with, engage with Indigenous communities, who do we engage with? Do we continue to engage solely with the Indian bands and the elected councils? Or do we start to think progressively, proactively, thinking about the future of the land, the country, the people that we represent? The Cowichan court case was not determined on the Indian Act, on the Indian bands. It was determined on rights and title existing before this was ever forced on Indigenous peoples. Today, right now, there's a court case in front of the courts in northern Quebec, and it is literally hereditary traditional leaders challenging the status quo, challenging the Indian Act. And I know I've spent time with some of the lawyers that are working on that court case, and they said this is going to be a precedent setting across the country of Canada, and it will change day-to-day business across the country in municipalities, provinces, in the federal government. And I would say that when we look at rights and title and the obligation to consult under Dalgamuk, we have to remember that that court case was not brought forward by the Indian bands, the elected chiefs and councils. The Dalgamuk court case was brought forward by hereditary leaders. 48 hereditary chiefs brought that case forward to the Supreme Court. And we all know the outcome of the Dalgamuk court case. The Dalgamuk court case reaffirmed that rights and title have existed since before contact. And it also determined that the duty to consult with Indigenous peoples remains with the Crown. And there is a duty to consult and accommodate on the infringement of Aboriginal rights. At this time, I don't want to go too deeply into it, but I'd just like to bring that to everyone's attention. And, I have very close friends and relatives across the Campbell River area, the Sayward Valley, the North Island, and I'm here to speak on behalf of those hereditary hereditary families and those chiefs that can't be here today, and just express that, the world that we live in is changing, and it's changing rapidly. And, I do this for a living. I talk to people across this country. I talk to governments at the highest level, federal, provincial, municipal, regional districts. I talk to people that represent corporations and industry across this country as well. And over the thousands of people that I've talked to over the many years, there is a concern. There are questions. And I would say that, the Supreme Court of Canada itself has said to all of us and challenged all of us as Canadians that we need to work together, because descendants of immigrants, descendants of Indigenous people, no one's going anywhere. And how do we work together with an open mind, understanding the history of this country, the history of this province? How do we do that? Is it okay to be uneducated? I don't think so. In this day and age, as a politician, we should have a firm grasp on many things. Water rights, land rights, and certainly we should have a firm grasp on rights and title and the court systems and how we got here. I think we are entering a time where being willfully ignorant is not acceptable. And once we understand the history of this country with regards to Indigenous peoples, once we start to explore and read, it will soon become very apparent that things are changing and no one in this country is ready for it. Federal and provincial governments, municipal governments, and certainly Indigenous people, no one's ready for it. I can tell you that.
I'm sorry, Rob. The time is, you're over. So I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's time to ask the questions.
Yeah, sure. Answer away or ask away, and I'll give you the 30-minute version.
Director Lanyon?
Thank you. I appreciate your speaking style on this topic. One of the things that I've kind of been struggling with is reaching a definition of the word reconciliation. There isn't really a standard approach to that. So I'm curious if you wouldn't mind ad-libbing how you would define reconciliation for the purposes of a regional district board.
Sure. Yeah, no worries.
And then if you don't mind, a second part to this would be, I'm just curious, like you kind of hinted at, like no one's ready.
Yep.
So what is your vision of that in terms of Indigenous, non-Indigenous relations 20 years from now if the current trajectory holds?
Yeah, and I think those two questions are connected intrinsically, and I think that your first part of your question, speaking to reconciliation, I remember back in 2015 when that Truth and Reconciliation Commission report came out. I remember a reporter came up to me. I happened to be the elected chief counselor of the Comox Indian Band at the time, and I remember a reporter asking me, said, Rob, what is your definition of reconciliation? And I had to think about it for a minute, and I looked at the reporter and I said, you know what? I think we can be truly reconciled when the statistics of Indigenous people are exactly the same as everyone else. But until then, as a society, we have serious problems. And when we look at the statistics of Indigenous people in this country, it is absolutely shameful. As a Canadian, every single person, every single Canadian in this country should be ashamed to their core of the statistics of Indigenous people in this country. We could go down the laundry list of the statistics. Did you know that over 50% of the women that are incarcerated in federal and provincial penitentiaries are Indigenous women? You have to remember, Indigenous people represent less than 5% of the general population across this country. Does that make sense? In this province, 68% of the children in care by the ministry are Indigenous children. Indigenous people represent just under 6% of the general population in this province. I remember reading a report last year. It said over 44% of the homeless people on Vancouver Island were Indigenous. And I tell people and I remind people that, boy, if the statistics of Indigenous people were exactly the same as everyone else, we would cut social services in half, literally. Is that a real, tangible thing for people around the table when we think about your tax bill? How much did you pay in taxes last year? Could you imagine that being reduced by 30, 40%? This is what we're talking about. And when we think about our leaders at the highest level, I remember every single one of them standing on their soapboxes before the election saying, we need economic reconciliation. We need to be economically reconciled with Indigenous people across this country. And I agree, we do. But the problem being that economic reconciliation for governments, federal, provincial, municipal, is let's give money, create opportunity for the Indian bands themselves. And I can tell you, as a band member of the Comox Indian Band, as an Indigenous person that spent most of my life living on a reserve, that money does not end up in my pockets. Not one dime. It buys consultants, it buys lawyers, it hires non-Indigenous people to write reports for governments, but it does not reconcile me as an Indigenous person. The future really means we have to come up with some ways, some strategy for economic reconciliation to truly take hold. For the education of the masses, which starts at leadership. I don't think education starts at grassroots. I think as leaders, it is our responsibility collectively to know, to understand, to read, to educate ourselves. If we don't, we have failed not only ourselves, but our constituents and our grandchildren, our children, and those children yet unborn. I take leadership as a very responsible, and as a leader, it's a responsibility, and I take it seriously, and I think everyone should. So educating yourself first and foremost is key to the future of survival in this country. And how do we economically reconcile? You know, these are questions that I have ideas, but boy, you know, it's going to take more than just me sitting around a table. It's going to take all of us sitting around the table trying to figure out, how do we create economy for everyone? How do we do that? How do we do that? I'm not sure how we do that. You know, sure would be good to have a sawmill back in, you know, I'm just saying, you know. But great questions, great questions. Anyone else?
Directors, Director Lott.
Thank you for your presentation. It was very enlightening, very passionate. I'm a mayor in a small rural community. I have very close relationships with my constituents. That's the closest level of, I think, government that we can have to the people in our country. One of the things that I hear from a lot of my constituents is there's this concern that a lot of the negotiations or the what we call the reconciliation, we're transferring resources, are happening behind closed doors. They don't seem to be very public, and they don't seem to be very inclusive. And a lot of people are really concerned, fearful, I would say, about their positions in our society. They're wondering about this concept of, you know, fee simple and Aboriginal title existing on properties that were historically their own. They're seeing resources transferred from what would be, you know, their part of their economy to Indigenous interests. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of really good communications, Rob, because what I'm dealing with is a lot of fear out of uncertainty and maybe even ignorance, but there is that fear, and I don't know how you're going to deal with that, because right now it seems like the engagement is at the political level with certain, you know, political parties that are interested in promoting Indigenous rights. You know, we look at UNDRIPA as adopted by Canada, but only adopted by one province, you know, when they have the DRPA, you know, Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People Act in British Columbia. Every 9 other provinces and territories have rejected it. So I don't know how we go forward, but right now is that what I can share with you is that there's a lot of fear on behalf of normal people, usually kind of coming out of maybe uncertainty and lack of knowledge, and they're fearful that their status quo or what they're used to, what their reality is being jeopardized
Sure.
and undermined.
Yeah.
And and I think they're reasonable people. And they're willing to look at things and figure out how we move forward together. But right now, it feels like that's not the case. It seems like things are happening without their consent. No referendums, nothing like that. It's just politicians
Yeah.
working with, certain bureaucrats. But anyways, I was wondering if you could comment on that.
Yeah, boy, lot to unpack there. But when we start to think about it, boy, it's one of those things that we talk about a lot, right? The position of Canadians today, British Columbians, and this unknowing, this, well, what about me? What am I? And we just talked about statistics. We just talked about the lives of Indigenous people. And again, I go back to being willfully ignorant. It's not acceptable in 2026, not acceptable 100%. Whether you're a Canadian citizen or you're in a leadership position, if you're going to step up to the mic and have a conversation with people, you better understand the history and understand law, the way it's applied, the way it's been applied. And I think that, as British Columbians, being leaders in a municipality, in a regional district, one of the things that you probably understand is FITFER, right? It's one of those things that has existed for a very long period of time. Everyone understands FITFER, yeah? Anyone don't know what FITFER means, right? First in time, first in rights. Do we believe in that? It pertains to water. But when we start to look at the idea behind something as simple as FITFER, what does that mean when we think about Aboriginal rights and Aboriginal title? When we think about land rights and land title? The two can't coexist. You can't say we believe in FITFER. We believe that that's a great philosophy. That's a good. It's done a great job to establish benchmarks and rules and order for the society we live in today, and then in this next breath say Indigenous people don't have those same rights. You just said first in time, first in rights, literally. So I would remind British Columbians, and I would remind each of your constituents that, you know what? The Supreme Court has challenged us all to do this work. It's not going to be easy work. And with regards to the UNDRIP, do you know the UNDRIP? It was brought forward at the United Nations level, but you know why it was brought forward? Because many countries around the world realized that Indigenous people around the world, many different countries, their human rights were being violated every day, every minute of every day. And they said, you know what, this isn't right. We need to acknowledge the human rights of Indigenous people, not only in one country, but around the world. It's something that we gotta amend. And that is literally what the UNDRIP is about. It's about the human rights of Indigenous people, bringing them to the same level as everyone else that lives in their respective countries. So when you look at DRIPA legislation, what is DRIPA legislation? All it is acknowledging that Indigenous people have the same human rights as you. That's all it's doing. And I don't know about you, but I think human rights is pretty important. Anyone disagree with human rights being important? Pretty darn important in our society around the world, because that protects you. That protects me. That protects each and every one of us from the tyranny of the masses. Could you imagine if a group of your neighbors got together and said, yeah, no, we're throwing you out of your home. We're not going to acknowledge that you have any human rights or any rights whatsoever. We're just going to throw you out of your home and force you to leave our community. Human rights. They protect your interests. They protect who you are. And that's all that the UNDRIP and DRIPA legislation does. So when we start to talk to our constituents, we just have to remind them all we're trying to do. And I'll say this, that when this country was created, our legislation, our laws, the rules, policies that we have in place today, they were created without thought, without the inclusion of the human rights of Indigenous people across this land. That's why we have the United Nations Declaration. That's why DRIPA legislation is in place. And I remember, and the only way we can fix it is we need to dismantle some of the legislative law and some of the rules that we have in place so that we can make room for Indigenous peoples within the laws and the rules and the policies in this country. But unless we do that, DRIPA will always be an add-on as a, we should also remember the human rights of Indigenous peoples. I know they don't coincide or exist, but boy, we sure need to understand that that's literally, that's all it is.
Director Jack for the final question.
Not a question more so, but thank you for your powerful words and it's along the lines of everything that I've been saying at the SRD about needing to work together as peoples rather than governments but learning to work together in this newfound way and recognizing Indigenous rights and what Indigenous people are about and taking care of the land so that we can all prosper. It's a very, very powerful words from you, and I'm grateful to be able to hear those words today. And as an Indigenous man and a leader for my community, I have been so for half my life, and to hear you explain everything that you have today on a much deeper level than I could have, and myself and learning to moving forward and with today's governments and working on at that level for our all our peoples, when you look at I had some gentleman asked me about every child matters, and he's like, does that mean every Indigenous child? I said, no, every child, whether it's my child, your child, or anybody else's child. That's what it's all about, is working together and recognizing, that we do need to move forward. But I'd love to sit down with you sometime and hash out a little more, but I just want to thank you for your words today. Cheers.
Kelakasla.
Thank you very much for being here today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime you want me back, if you want to get into it in a deeper level, I mean, I'm always around. And like I said, I work for Indigenous Corporate Training, and that's literally what we do. We talk to people across this country and try to educate and bring enlightenment to people, because everyone is struggling with the same questions, the same concerns. How do we create equality? How do we create equity? And how do we include Indigenous peoples in our day-to-day lives in a real economic way so that everyone can prosper? So I'd like to thank each and every one of you and for allowing me to speak. And I hope you read that little booklet. And if you ever want to talk, I'm always free for a cup of coffee, always up for a free lunch, or I'll pay, whatever. I can do that too. But yeah, one of the things, and it's been my Band-Aid, and as I look around the room, as we get a little bit older, our the way we think and the way we process things changes, and it becomes more about the next generations than it does about our day-to-day lives. And I've spent a lot of time investing in the future of my children, my grandchildren, and just understanding that the world that exists today isn't good enough. And we need to change it so that all of our children, all of our grandchildren, those children yet unborn, can prosper and have a good life and opportunity. Because right now, equality does not exist. We live in a two-tiered society where one group of people is under the thumb of this country. And we need to change things. And we need to do it in a real decisive manner. And and it starts by acknowledging and understanding and educating ourselves. So I'd like to thank you, each and every one of you, again for sitting here, listening to me, even if you don't agree with what I say or have some issues with it, that's okay. That's where we start our discussion, and really it allows us to have an open dialogue. So thank you so much for allowing me to speak today. And I hope you have a great day. And sorry, I'm not going to hang out and talk about sewer and water and all the other things that you're going to talk about. But boy, I hope you guys have a great day. And summer is fleeting, so get out there and enjoy the sun while you can. Kela kasla.
Kela kesa. Thank you. Move to receive.
So moved.
Oh, second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Adoption of minutes.
Move adoption of the minutes of the Regional Board meeting held on July 29th, 2026.
Director Von Esch is second. It was Director Chapman, sorry. All in favor? Somebody. Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Business arising? None. Public consideration? None. Notice of motions, chair's reports, none. Okay, we made a motion to move bylaw number 2
To the beginning of staff reports.
to the beginning of staff reports. Thank you. Consent calendar, committee chair's report, Director Senate.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll make a motion with respect to the Strathcona Garden.
Held on August 6th, 2026, be received.
Discussion. All in favor? Okay, seeing none opposed, motion's carried. Director Wally, number 4.
Concerning Electoral Area Service Committee, I move that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Electoral Service Committee held on August 12, 2026 be received.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed, seeing none, motion's carried. Director Rice, staff reports, sorry. Staff reports, number 2, bylaw. Director Dahl.
That bylaw number 643, Strathcona Gardens Recreation Facility Amendment, that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Second.
Discussion.
So, Mr. Chair, the Regional District has received a number of bylaws back approved from the inspector in terms of referendum for new services, expanded services. We have 4, I believe, on the agenda today. Strathcona Gardens is one. The history of putting referendum questions on the Regional District has been fairly prescriptive. It's a question that basically just outlines the bylaw, and that's what we've provided for the board's approval.
Thank you. So on A, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B, Director Dahl.
That the ballot question to be asked of electors when voting on bylaw number 643 be confirmed as follows. Are you in favor of bylaw number 643, which would amend the Strathcona Gardens Recreation Facility Service by adding that part, electoral area C, Quadra Island, shown on Appendix A to the bylaw as a participant for the service and specifying a cost-sharing formula that uses a percentage of the coveted hospital assessment of each participant as follows. City of Campbell River, 100%. Electoral Area D, Oyster Bay, Bottle Lake, 90%. That part of Electoral Area C, known as Quadra Island, 80%.
Second, discussion. Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a statement to make. In early 2023, we all agreed to certain strategic priorities of good governance to proactively communicate and engage with our communities, to recognize the diversity of our region, and to focus on areas of common
sorry.
interest.
Point of order has been called.
Oh, yeah? About what?
This has got nothing to do with the motion at hand.
How do you know? You haven't heard what I had to say.
Mr. Chair, the motion is on the question. The bylaw has been approved. So the debate should be on the question itself.
I do have some points about that, if I may actually make my comments.
As long as they're on the question, then that's fine.
Yes, Bylaw 643 has been the biggest Area C and Quadra Island issue in the last 4 years. Magnitudes bigger than the potential wharf service, which failed an alternative approval process over a maximum requisition of 0.09 per 1,000 of assessed value. Bylaw 643 will push Quadra Island into the Strathcona Garden Service, a service with a maximum requisition limit of 1.588 per 1,000 of assessed value. I find it very odd that this maximum isn't included in the question
point of
when it
order.
is included in all the other assent
Director
questions
Mawhinney?
on this agenda.
Point of order, please. Again, if we take a look at our Code of Conduct, Part 3, Article 8, it clearly says in there that we need to keep the discussion germane to the motion at hand. Today, we're not talking about the bylaw. We're talking about language that is going to be on a ballot question. The bylaw has already been decided. This board decided that. It
Mr.
went off
Chair,
to the
my
province.
comment was
It went off
specifically
to the
around the
province.
wording of this motion.
It went off to the province, and the province has returned it. Quadra Island has already had opportunity to lobby the Inspector of Municipalities. You've already lobbied the minister, and the item has been returned. Today, we're talking about a ballot question. That is the motion.
If I may, Mr. Chair, the question is quite prescriptive. You know, we have a history of asking the bylaw question as it pertains to the bylaw. Again, it's pretty prescriptive. If there's an issue with the question, it reflects the bylaw. So when you're asking people whether they support a bylaw or not, you give a summary of the description of the bylaw. That's what's here.
And yet, for some reason, the other bylaw questions that are on our agenda today, all of them list the maximum the maximum amount that we requisitioned, and this one doesn't. And that's the point that I've been trying to make, that I keep apparently getting called on
The
a point of
bylaws
order
are
for.
available for people, and they will be online, so anyone that wants to know the
So
requisition
what is the
able
reason
to.
that this one in particular doesn't say 1.588, where the other ones say 0.054?
I'll let Mr. Yates answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So there's nothing in bylaw 643 that either sets or amends the maximum requisition for the service. The bylaw simply amends the service participants and the cost sharing between them. It doesn't address, as do the other questions before the board today, it doesn't address the maximum requisition that can be charged for the service.
And yet there is a question because you're amending this service to add a whole new area. And those people are not being presented with that information in the question, whereas they will be for the wood chipping service, which we're also going to discuss today. I find that troubling, and I think it would be appropriate because then people have the opportunity to compare and understand what they're being asked to vote on.
Mr. Chair, I think Mr. Yates just answered that.
Thank you. So moving on,
I have something further to say.
call the question.
I have comments.
You have a comment, Director Von Esch?
Yeah, I have a question for the corporate officer, if I may. What happens if we don't pass this? Like, what is it we actually deciding today?
If I'll answer that, if you don't pass this question, then the question will be on the ballot of whether folks support the bylaw. There will be a question on the referendum.
So whether we pass this or not, this wording is going to be on a referendum.
No, it'll be more, I would say, condensed wording.
Yes. So the board has already decided there will be a vote on October 17th. This is an opportunity for the board to frame the question if it wishes.
Okay, thank you. And my other question was, you know, if this does pass today and it goes through the referendum and you know, obviously Quadra Island has a very small amount of votes, and by Campbell River and Area D supporting it, it's going to save them all like $15 or $20 a household. it seems like then that would come back to the board, and then the board would have, that would be the last chance to, decide whether we put it in place. Is that right?
The board would have to finally adopt the bylaw.
Okay, and that would be the new board.
Okay,
No, it'd be the existing board.
Well, the referendum's on October 17th, so it would be the new board, right?
The existing board has one meeting after the election.
okay, thank you. Last question.
Thank you, Chair. My question is regarding the unfortunately amalgamated vote of Quadra Island residents with those of residents of Campbell River and Area D. The votes will be compiled. Will there be a report which comes to the board which will outline the percentages of pros and cons or yeses and noes?
I'm not
Of order, I
sure,
thought the
Mr.
question
Chair.
was called.
Yeah, I'm not sure that has anything to do with the referendum question.
It has to do with the whole thing. I'm just asking if we're going to have the numbers,
What's
if
on
the
the
numbers will
table
come to
is
us.
the referendum question. That's the discussion. The referendum
The
question,
question was
that's it.
called. All in favor? Opposed? Director Wally, Director Von Esch, Director Mawhinney, Director Lott, Director Davis are opposed. Director Jack is no longer with online. So 5 opposed. Motion carries. Going back to staff reports. Director Rice, number 1.
Thank you, Chair. Development Variance Permit Application DV 4D26, Electoral Area D. I'd like to move that the report from the Chief Administration Officer be received.
Discussion?
Nothing from staff, Mr. Chair.
All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B.
I'd like to move item B, that the Development Variance Permit DV 4D26, 4774 Lewis Road, as attached in the staff report dated August 14th, 2026, be denied.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Director Rice.
Number 2, Environmentally Sensitive Area Development Permit Application DP 3D25, Electoral Area D. I'd like to move that the report from the Chief Administration Officer be received.
Discussion?
Nothing from staff, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I'd like to move item B, that the development permit DP 3D25 be approved and that the corporate officer be authorized to issue the permit.
I'm declaring a conflict for business reasons.
You don't have a vote.
No, it's electoral areas only.
Susan, you don't have a,
Okay. Electoral area. Directors, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Wally, number 3.
Concerning the ALR subdivision application in electoral area A, I move the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. Chair, Meredith will speak to this.
Thank you through the chair. This application, ALR 1A26, is for essentially information purposes only. We have received an application to subdivide a 13.26 hectare parcel of land located within the ALR into 5 lots within electoral area A. Because electoral area A does not have an OCP or a zoning bylaw, it is required in the Local Government Act that this be brought forward to a local government. However, in the absence of that regulation, there is no requirement for a resolution of support. So this has been prepared to advise you that this application will proceed to the ALC for consideration, and also to give you the opportunity to add some comments to that application. Thank you.
Director Wally?
Mr. Chair, subdividing this land into 5 lots provides the potential for 2 residents on each lot, plus any outbuildings they wish to construct, and that would occupy a significant portion of this, which is really prime agricultural land in the Sayward Valley. But in addition to all of this, this land is within the Salmon River floodplain. So it's really not suitable residential area. Unfortunately, some new residents of the Sayward Valley, they look at this type of land and all nice and green and dry, and they figure, hey, this is a great place to build a house. It's not. And it doesn't substantially flood every year, but every 20 years or so, you can get 4 feet of water in that piece of land. Not a good place to put your house. And fortunately, some people even go and put a basement in there, which is a disaster. But Mr. Chair, after receipt, I would like to make a motion, please.
Okay.
If I can, I was just going to, Director Wally's one-up me there. Is there an opportunity for the SRD to make comment on this?
Yes, we can provide comment.
Yeah, great.
Okay, so on receipt, Director Moini.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to mention that the report says that the regional agrologist and the Ministry of Agriculture and Food have both indicated that subdividing this land is not in the best interest of agriculture.
Okay, any other? All in favor of receipt? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
I'd like to make a subsequent motion. I would move that we recommend as a board to the ALC that we deny this application.
I second that.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Wally, number 4.
Concerning Walters Cove Water Distribution Service, I move that the report from the CEO be received.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Director Chapman, number 5.
Thank you, Chair. Covenant discharge request for 2199 Tamarack Street, that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Mr. Chair, I think Meredith will quickly speak to this as well.
Apologies to the chair. I suppose I should have hovered. So this is to respond to correspondence received on behalf of 2199 Tamarack Street in Campbell River. This has an old restrictive covenant on it that restricts residential development in a floodplain. That covenant is now obsolete for a couple of reasons. The main one being that the SRD is not the land use authority for this parcel in Campbell River. Excuse me. But more importantly, because the floodplain protection that it provides is already captured now in the city's own planning regulatory bylaws. So it's already protected. Thank you.
Okay, so on receipt, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. B.
I move that the Regional District take steps to discharge Covenant ED 50592 from the property described as Lot 1, District Lot 67, Sayward District, Plan VIP 82731.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Director Morwini, number 6.
Marine Parks Forever Society, opportunities for collaboration. Move that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer is received.
Second.
Discussion.
Meredith will speak to this as well, Mr. Chair.
Thank you through the board. So this report comes to you following a delegation that the board received from the Marine Parks Forever Society of BC. They are a registered nonprofit, and they are already doing a lot of works to protect coastal and foreshore areas that are largely managed by BC Parks. They've reached out to the SRD to explore opportunities to collaborate with us as a body, and so this board passed a motion seeking this report on what that collaboration could look like, what opportunities might exist. What we have done here is just to articulate a few options for what that type of collaboration could look like. And so that's things with supporting stern ties and mooring buoy installation, which is work that they already do, or mapping and communication support to map out where those stern tie locations are, that type of thing, or or more generally communicating across the organization, across our organization and their organization where funding opportunities exist, and just having that open line of communication. We could coordinate on policy and planning development, which is to say consulting with them specifically when we are doing things like official community plan updates. I will say we already do engage with nonprofit groups, and so that would be something that is already in line with the work that we do, but a continuation or a intentional way of stating that. Lastly, with the acquisition of lands in sensitive coastal areas, they are already work to secure lands in coastal areas with BC Parks. That is something that they could do with us. We are well positioned, of course, to accept land donations, and we do that on occasion when it comes up. But through a partnership with the Marine Park Forever Society, we may be able to connect with potential donors more effectively, or they may be a resource for encouraging that type of donation to be made. So, thank you.
Any questions? Director Colburn?
I'm just curious if this report itself has been shared with that organization. I'm just wondering about, at the end of the report, it says that we could direct staff to advance one or more of these opportunities, and I'm wondering which they would find more valuable, which would bring the most bang for our buck. So I'm wondering if this has been directly shared with them.
Thank you, through the chair. We have not shared this report directly, though we have communicated with them to understand what they would be looking for from the SRD.
Further to that, then, I think that if we communicated with us and we figured out which ones that provided the most, I mean, that's the wording I'm going to use is bang for our buck kind of thing. Things that are easy to action is, that planning and policy development, that kind of thing. But will they, the value to that, if there's something more valuable out of these list of options that they foresee? That's all I would say, is if we could share this with the organization and then come back and, unless somebody is going to make a motion to support one of all or all of these, I'm not sure.
Director Von Esch?
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate the report, and as a sailor and boater myself, certainly recognize the value of developing and supporting the marine ecosystems for boaters to be able to access. We have one of the best boating and sailing areas in the world here. And I certainly support all of the things here. And of course, if we're going to do something, these things cost. So I think I'd be interested in sort of following Julie, is understanding what would be the best partnership with them. So having that conversation with them, but also perhaps staff coming back with some potential costs of what these things might be, so that we can make a more informed decision.
Second.
Was that a motion?
I appreciate that. I didn't make the motion, but I will after receipt of the report.
Director Sinnott?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Actually, funny enough, I know someone in the San Juans who actually does this type of work as a for-profit business. So there's an economic opportunity for probably someone who lives in one of these outer regions on one of these remote islands to be the maintenance person who does the mapping and does the maintenance. And there's another opportunity that perhaps hasn't been discussed is sometimes a lot of these mooring buoys and the chains and things will drag along the ground and damage eelgrass. And sometimes you can get more grant money to do modifications, including adding floats and things into these environmentally sensitive areas. So there's, I think, another good reason that potentially someone who lives in one of these remote communities could pick up a good job in doing a lot of maintenance work.
Director Von Esch, and then Director Mawhinney, and then Director
I would
Chatham.
agree with Director Sinnott, and just for clarity, the mooring buoys are basically putting a chunk of concrete at the bottom with a chain that people can sign onto, compared to dropping your anchor, which has more of the ability to get dragged along and create more disturbances on the bottom. So I think mooring buoys are actually a more environmentally friendly way to be in a marine park.
I'm just aware of the programs they're doing down the San Juans to protect eelgrass with mooring buoys with connections. So there's other things that we can look at to benefit the environment.
Director Mawhinney?
Thank you, Chair. And I'm interested in the motion. It sounds like it's going to get made. And my comments were really around the acquisition of lands in sensitive coastal areas. That's one of the items here on the report, and it felt to me like that would maybe be a really good place for collaboration with the Marine Parks Forever Society, because they may have lots of connections, and we are able to offer, I believe, tax receipts for donations of land for parks. So it seems like that might be a really great way to expand land for marine parks and also provide benefit to potential property owners. So I look forward to supporting the motion that's about to come.
Director Chapman.
Thank you, Chair. Director Mawhinney pretty much said what I wanted to say about seeking the input of First Nations before we do anything on this.
Okay, you have a motion, Director Von Esch?
Sure, I would move that staff.
Still on receipt, sorry. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Go ahead.
I would move that staff engage with the Marine Parks Forever Society around the recommended ways that we could potentially collaborate with them and come back with some more guidelines and some potential costs of partnering with them in the ways outlined in this report.
Second.
Discussion. Director Colburn. Director Chapman.
No, do we need to create a service if we're going to be raising money?
Likely, but premature at this point, but likely.
Director Colburn.
Mine was going to be, and including their consultation process that they're doing. So I just wanted to kind of have that friendly addition or a direction to staff to be doing that.
Yeah, and I hope ultimately, First Nations engagement is part of all the decisions we make. And I guess I hope we could do this within, maybe we would have to create a new service if it's not within a specific region. But yeah, look forward to next steps and hope folks can support that.
I have a question about that. Couldn't it potentially fall within each electoral area's parks service? Because we already have parks, and in Area C we have, I think, 5 wharves, which are part of our park service. So wouldn't something like this also be like additional to parks if it was a marine park?
Tom's reaching for the button, so he's anxious to answer.
It depends, I would say, Mr. Chair. Depends on what comes of the discussions. And I think if we're proposing to raise money out of the tax base on a consistent basis, then likely a service would be the proper way to go.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I would be opposed of rolling this into Area D's park service. Our parks are land-based, and this is something that is water-based, and I think it would be more appropriate, at least in my community, to have a separate service on this.
Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Number 7, Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair. Surge Narrows Store Heritage Designation. I'll move that the report from the CAO is received.
Second.
Discussion. Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair. I hope you've all had a chance to look at this report with the information from the community on Reed Island. There is both history and hope in this request from the Reed Island community for a report on heritage designation for the Surge Narrows Store. And as you may be aware, but just in case you aren't, in 2017, the Strathcona Regional District purchased the store and the land it sits on. And the hope of the owner and the community at that time was that the SRD would have the funds and capacity to preserve the store. And in 2019, we did obtain a grant from the federal and provincial governments to reconstruct and revitalize the store and the associated marine infrastructure. And the community was really delighted, believing that this historical asset and a vital part of the island's past would be brought back to life. However, there is growing community concern that the SRD may choose to demolish the store and build something new in its stead, which feels, quote, unfathomable to the community. And that's why they're just seeking more information and have requested information on a heritage designation. And they're hopeful that with this designation, an easier path to true revitalization could be discovered. So I trust and hope that you will support this request for a report which outlines the steps and timeline to achieving regional heritage designation.
If I can, Mr. Chair, I just feel compelled to add something to Director Winnie's editorial. The regional district will never choose to demolish the store. We will have no choice but to demolish the store. It's a structure that's decades old, rotten, not safe for inhabitation, and extremely unlikely that any engineer would support the structural integrity of it. So if the store has no existing structural use or integrity, there will be no choice but to dismantle the store and or not do the project. It will not be by regional district choice. No.
Right. Director Rice?
Thank you, Chair. Just with regards to the motion, and I guess this is a question through the chair to the director, your motion speaks to just merely outlining the steps to achieve heritage status, but what about this board receiving a report on the actual structural? This doesn't sound like that's going to achieve that. So I think that that would be very important. I mean, I'm all for saving history. I owned a heritage house in Nanaimo, so I know what it's like. But I also know the challenges of having a heritage home and all of the hoops that we have to jump through, you know, in order to maintain that kind of status. So again, I'm hearing conflicting reports. I received an email from somebody encouraging me to vote on this. And what I'm thinking in my mind is right now, this board hasn't had the full measure of the facts. So I would like to see the full measure of the facts.
Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you through the Chair to Director Rice for his question and comment. And I believe that at our last Electoral Area Services Committee meeting, this was discussed, and the folks on Reed Island had found a business which does heritage building restorations, and they have shared that information with planning staff, and I believe that there is an investigation from an approved, heritage building company that does a lot of work with buildings on the coast, and I believe that's underway. So I would imagine that probably the report would come back to the EASC table, but maybe it would come back to this table, I'm not sure.
Okay, so on receipt, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B.
I am happy to move B, that a report be prepared outlining the steps and timeline required to achieve SRD heritage designation for the Surgeon Arrow store, including any potential impacts on the revitalization project.
Discussion. Director Goldburn.
As per Director Rice's comments, I'm wondering if the other report, the report that will go to EASC about the, I don't know, the structural integrity, thank you, of the building could also be included at that time.
If I may, Mr. Chair, Meredith might be able to help me out here. I'm not certain that this person group consultant has been hired, has offered us a price. We have an agreement with them. We're not certain about their professional credentials. Meredith, help me out.
Happy to jump in. Yes, we have committed to the community that we would explore this. Staff had previously recommended demolition based on the assessments by 3 previous contractors. However, given the community's interest and passion for this particular structure, we are looking a little bit more further with this consultant that they have found whose specialty is in renovations and restorations of historic buildings. I'll admit perhaps pessimism, but I don't think that we're going to discover that the building is structurally sound. We have always been committed to restoring or maintaining the historical features and elements of the store and reconstructing it in a way that would preserve that look and feel. What I don't think we're going to be able to do is restore the physical artifact of the store itself. However, again, we are exploring that. We have made space for that within the budget. We have put it on an expedited process, so we do anticipate that we'll have some response to that question probably within the next couple of months. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Dr. Sinnott?
Is there a budget associated with this? Because I can't see a report being done without people going to visit the site.
Yeah, there is. We were grant funded for that, so we do have funds.
Okay, so all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Director Kerr, number 8.
Thank you, Chair, and I move that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Oh, Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report. I'm curious if any of the MRDT funding is being directed to housing, as this is a category which the MRDT can invest in. There's no copy of the application attached, so I'm not sure if this is a question for staff or if it should be directed through the chair to Cam River directors that might have more knowledge.
Staff certainly won't. So I'd have to defer to Cam River. Again, what the regional district does, provide a letter of support that's required in the application, and that's what we brought you.
Director Dahl?
Housing is not a part of the MRDT package that the hoteliers agreed to. So, no, the hotels and restaurateurs and tourism providers were not in favor of having their money spent on housing. And this is their plan, not the city's. So that's your answer.
Okay, on receipt, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. B.
B, and that Strathcona Regional District support the City of Campbell River's renewal application for the Municipal and Regional District Tax MRDT program.
Seconded.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Director Sinnott, number 9.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Regarding the grant application for Camp River Search and Rescue, that the report of the Chief Administration Officer be received.
Second.
Mr. Chair, so we received a request from Cam River SAR in terms of some financial support, and the board had asked us to go back to them and ask if they had any further financial requests before the end of the year, and it's our understanding they don't.
Okay, anybody else? Director Mawhinney?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report. And I think that the SRD funding search and rescue through a regional grant and aid seems sensible to me. There are tangible regional benefits in having a well-functioning search and rescue service for not only residents, but the thousands of visitors who come to the region every year in search of amazing outdoor recreation opportunities. And it's really nice to see an organization complete the grant and aid application form and to see it come to the board in a way which provides time for us all to consider the request. I do think in future it would be valuable to also receive their annual report or budget for the year as it is outlined on the application form. I am in support of this request and the follow-up motion that I'm sure somebody will be making. And then, Mr. Chair, following that, I have a follow-up motion of my own.
If I may, Mr. Chair, so just want to remind folks, because I'm asked this many, many times. I'm even going to say Director Wally, who's been here longer than anybody. We may have an application, we have no policy, and we've tried to bring policy on grant and aid many, many, many times unsuccessfully. So I don't know if your follow-up motion is to bring a policy, but I think we have 2 or 3 in the queue that the board has never passed. So asking for additional financial information, however, I may not agree or disagree with that. That has been part of the debate and the discussion around grant and aid policy that we've never landed on. So I don't know if your motion had anything to do with that. If it doesn't, forget everything I said.
Yeah, just further to that, I think chasing a policy is like a dog chasing his tail, but there might be room for the board to consider creating a service for grant and aid, regional grant and aid in the future, and that way we could budget for it. We'd know how much we had in the pot and how much we could spend, so that's just a thought.
Director Wally said create a service?
He's suggesting creating a service, yes.
Sorry, I just was making sure I got that right.
We all heard that correct.
Still in receipt. Still on receipt. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Options.
Thank you, Chair. I will move option A, that a regional grant and aid in the amount of $18,500 be provided to the Campbell Search and Rescue Society.
Second that.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Lott, number 10. Oh,
I have a follow-up.
oh, you had a follow-up? I apologize.
Yes, thank you. And I did provide it to Ms. Watson prior to the meeting. And it's open for editorial if the word policy in there bothers somebody. But my motion is that a report on regional grants and aid be prepared for the October 21st Committee of the Whole, and that the report include regional grant history for the past 3 years, budget analysis, and policy recommendations.
Second.
Okay. Well, the
With
good
the
news,
comment.
I'll start with good news.
Okay.
Is it won't take us much effort because we have several written, so none of this bothers me.
I would just like to, I guess, myself, I think that we do have a bit of a policy already, a de facto policy, maybe we can call it, because we have a webpage which lists what we want people to provide, which is like
I'm gonna say
financial
no.
information and annual report.
No.
That's not a policy, even though it's on our webpage?
That de facto policy, using your terms, is interpreted quite differently by everyone with different limits. So we do have people that voluntarily exercise providing us information, which is great for the board, but no. But again, happy to do it. Won't take much work because we've already done this.
And if I could just add that I think this specifically around regional grants and aid, because we've had quite a few different regional grants and aid come through this board in the last few months, and they've come in many different ways, you know, either at the end of a delegation request and then we're making a decision on the fly. And I think, you know, I've seen in other boards where they're making a decision at the next meeting because it provides a little bit more space in the decision-making process. And I think sometimes we've had requests where we haven't even seen any paperwork, but we voted on it. So it would be really great if we could come up with some sort of baseline that we all agree on. And also look at this in October because budget season is coming for next year.
Director Colburn.
I'd like to approach an amendment. I'd like to, after policy, add versus service.
Okay, Director Chapman.
I was just going to say, is Director Wally going to second that amendment, or he's on a roll?
Second.
Yeah, and the reason I asked so is because we have done this a bunch of times before, and I don't think it will take staff much time. However, I think that that's a valid point about having a service to do that, and that's the way we're moving. And it might as well come to the first regional district board of the next to let them know. Thanks.
All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Director Chapman. That was the amendment. On the amendment. Not yet. It was Director Chapman
You've
first.
said enough on that topic. We've got all your input, I think, yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just looking at the amendment, I think that I wasn't going to support the resolution the way it was. I was more in favor of what Director Wally was saying about a service. So this covers that, I think.
Okay, Director Wally.
Yeah, I was going to comment that as far as policy is concerned, and I think the concern is that we get a group comes in as a delegation, gives a little talk and says, oh, by the way, I'd like another 20,000 or something, which is a little out of order, I think. In electoral areas, it's different because each electoral area director knows exactly what's coming and what's needed and so on. But as a general policy, I don't like it. But I think we could handle this with our procedure bylaw. Just simply have a procedure that says, at the next meeting, we'll discuss it or something like that. Because there's no opportunity to really discuss things when we have a delegation.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Lott. number 10.
Thank you, Chair. Quarterly report from the BC Ombudsperson, that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Director Dahl, number 11.
That the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. Chair, this is pretty administrative. We do it all the time, make election agreements with different local governments to assist us in a variety of election issues.
Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair. I had a question. This was, seemed to be that this election agreement with the City of Campbell River is about expenses for the assent vote for bylaw 643. I'm curious if there's an amount of expense which is estimated for the assent vote on bylaw 643, and if the expense is paid for by the entire regional district or by the participants of the service.
Edith may have an estimate on the cost.
Thank you, and through the chair, just to clarify, are you asking for an estimate with the City of Campbell River or as a full vote?
Oh, I was specifically looking for this one, but if you have both, that would be great.
I don't, but I do have an estimated value for the City of Campbell River would be between $10,000 and $12,000.
Thank you. And the second part of my question, who answers that?
Mr. Chairman, the second part of the question, as I understand it, is whether the full region will pay for the voting on bylaw 643. By law, it has to be the service. So whoever ends up being part of the service will be responsible for paying.
Okay, so on receipt, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. B,
That the Chair and Corporate Officer be authorized to execute the 2026 assent voting agreement with the City of Campbell River.
discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Director Lanyon, number 12.
I move that the report from the CAO be received.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. B,
Be that invoice number 1,000 in the amount of $1,426,799.65 from Broad Street Properties Limited be approved for payment.
second. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Director Mawhinney, number 13.
Grant opportunity, extreme heat resilience. Move that the report from the CAO is received.
Second.
Mr. Koopman will speak to this, Mr. Chair.
Through the chair, this report is to seek your blessing to apply for $75,000 through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities for a targeted extreme heat outreach campaign through a term staff member for vulnerable populations, as well as stockpile some cooling devices that could be distributed to vulnerable populations during an extreme heat event. While the report doesn't mention it because that report was drafted in that time, this was really inspired from Campbell River's official community plan, section 7-2-1 under community resilience, which recommends that we all work together for targeted outreach campaigns for vulnerable populations for extreme weather events.
Director Davis?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Question through to staff. I noticed that we didn't send a letter of support from TASIS, and is there any point in us sending one at this point?
Through the chair, great question. So you'll notice that a lot of the grants that are coming up have deadlines for a couple months from now. I am just trying to stockpile. I was just trying to stockpile this agenda with as much as possible in preparation for my paternity leave in October for baby number 2. So it's been summer. We've been doing EOC deployments. Me and my staff out to Penticton to help with the Summerland evacuation. That would be greatly appreciated, Director. And if you don't see your community on there, we just haven't had the bandwidth to reach out to everybody about every single grant on this one yet. So it's that simple. But yeah, that would be great.
Director Colburn?
I'm just wondering if granted, what that would look like. So with communities that supported it or any community within the SRD would be able to reach out. The reason I'm asking is because with the job description that's created inside here, I'm just wondering what that process looks like. Is that something that you would promote at the beginning of the season to remind us all that, that this, if it's gone through, or would that be by a request basis only? Just looking for logistics if you have a plan yet for that.
Yeah, through the chair, honestly, we have so much on the go. I don't hit those details too hard until I see the funding in the bank, or else I'd spend a lot of time thinking and not enough time doing. But, off the top of my head, what this would look like would be, pre-planned workshops, media releases, messages on Alertable. Like some of this is just about having a booth, but also reaching with Island Health for the populations that they serve, stockpiling a list of people that might require the equipment in the event of an extreme heat emergency, but also like those citizen-specific services. One of the potential roles for this interim staff member would be helping people apply for BC Hydro rebates for windows. So yeah, we would advertise that people can reach out.
Amazing. Thank you. I appreciate that because I think that sometimes the programs that are offered, there's so many programs and people don't know really where to access them. So it would be great if at the beginning of the summer or something like that there was a really big push out from the SRD and saying, these are the services that we can support you with. Just reach out to so-and-so, right? So,
yeah,
thanks.
and to the chair, to agree. And it's all so online app Amazon-ish based these days, so like wherever possible we're really trying to bridge that gap and help do it for people.
It also just costs $10 to buck stuff in Zabalas on every just putting that out there. Thanks.
Director Mawhinney?
I appreciate you.
I was just curious if the SRD has enough storage space for all the things that we might be collecting through this.
Through the chair, we have approximately 16 20-foot shipping containers in various communities throughout the regional districts. Storage, we're good.
Okay, so on receipt, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B,
I'll move that an application be submitted to the November 2026 Rapid Adaptations Projects Grant Program, on behalf of the local governments and First Nation entities identified in the August 21st, 2026 report from the CAO, and that the Strathcona Regional District commit to overall management of the grant if the application is successful.
Second.
discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Director Von Esch, number 14.
Mental Health and Climate Change Community Action Grant. I'll move that the report from the CAO be received.
Mr. Koopman will speak to this as well.
Correct, Mr. Koopman will. Through the chair, a unique grant opportunity, very flexible, very broad. And so throughout multiple discussions with my team and our partners on the landscape, what we identified as the best use for this grant is a food security lens through workshops that encourage people to get the most out of their gardening, the best yields for how to garden for climate change, as well as continue to support our multi-millions of dollars that we brought in for ecosystem restoration, focused on supporting students and upcoming young professionals by paying them to do some supervised field work on a specific restoration area identified in our Path Forward report. Once again, haven't gone into too much of the details on where yet. We're looking at Upper Willow Creek watershed in Hamalco territory or somewhere along the Oyster River as kind of like our two focused scopes right now, but still yet to be determined, as well as work with Upper Vancouver Island Counseling Services to provide free counseling services to groups or individuals upon request. but we require your blessing to submit the application.
Director Von Esch.
Thank you, Chair. Great to see this application moving forward. I had a question about the counseling services. One of the things I've been thinking over the last few years is, like, wouldn't it be great if folks who can't afford counseling be able to access it? So I'm really excited to see this here. And I'm wondering if that could be set up so that it's offered online and we could make sure that rural communities can access it too.
Yeah, through the chair, that is the plan and the most economical way I think we would go about this.
Thank you. So on receipt, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B.
I'll move that an application be submitted to the 2026 Mental Health and Climate Change Community Action Grant Program on behalf of the local government and First Nation entities identified in the 2026 report from the CAO, and that the SRD commit to overall management of the grant if the application is successful.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Colburn, number 15.
Grant opportunity for active communities that the report from the CAO be received.
Mr. Koopman will speak to this.
Through the chair, this application is partially a continuation of our previous Active Communities grant that was successful of supporting life-saving courses in rural communities, specifically Gold River and Port McNeill, and what staff at the Strathcona Gardens Recreation Complex also flagged as a potential for this one is expanding our rehabilitation services throughout the regional district. So helping provide people with the travel costs to come here to attend their initial consultation, and then paying for the staff's time to follow up with them on Zoom. So to help them overcome that travel barrier so they're not always having to rip Highway 28 in for an hour-long appointment.
Okay, so on receipt, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
B, that the application to the 2026 Active Communities Grant Program be submitted to fund the activities identified in the August 21st report from the CAO, and that the RD commit to overall management if the grant application is successful.
Second that, Chair.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Lott, number 16.
Thank you, Chair. Gold River Partnership Opportunity Disability Alliance, I'd like to move that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Second.
And one more for Mr. Koopman.
Yeah, through the chair, this is a grant that the regional district, being a local government, isn't eligible to apply for. However, we do have a unique opportunity to support Gold River Community Services, actually a very similar theme that you heard me speak to with the extreme heat resilience, in a term staff position that would assist seniors, vulnerable populations, people with disabilities, with helping overcome the digital divide that we're seeing with warning and how people receive emergency funding when they're evacuated, setting up their profiles ahead of time, helping them download the app, but then also work with our local nonprofit service providers that support people with disabilities and lived experiences, the River City Inclusion, the Campbell River Head Injury Society, with updating their emergency response and business continuity plans.
Okay, so on receipt, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B.
B, that I'd like to move that the regional district approve its partnership for Gold River Community Services 2026 Disability Alliance grant application.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Wally, number 17.
Concerning the Backcountry Horseman Society gas tax funding request, I move that the report from the CEO be received.
Second.
Discussion.
Quickly, Mr. Chair. So gas tax application for some work for the Backcountry Horseman Society has done a substantial amount of work on their trails and infrastructure. Needs a little bit more money to finish off one of their locations. Early examination looks like the project is eligible. There's plenty of money in Area A gas tax and a couple options for the board.
Director Wally.
Mr. Chair. So as noted in the staff report, the provincial government is donating this really large shelter. I think it's like 24 by 30 some feet to be placed at the Pine Martin Recreation Site in Area A. And there's a photograph of it on page 8 if you looked at that staff report. So it's a really nice building. And this site, together with the 40-kilometer trail network that it's attached to, attracts hundreds of campers and hikers, hunters, cyclists, and horsemen to every year to Area A. It's a real economic benefit to our economy, and I'm sure 99% of these people pass through Campbell River on their way, and they're going to stop for food and gas and whatever, so it's a benefit really regionally. Recreation Sites and Trails BC is also donating $10,000 in cash, as well as the building, because it's already constructed, it just needs to be deconstructed and moved to this new site over where we are. And the project then is going to require a little additional site preparation, the new site. We've got to pour a cement pad. So that's what this 10,000 is designed for. There's 3 recreation sites just like this, and this is one of them. And they're all managed by the Backcountry Horsemen of BC Society. It's under contract with the provincial government, the Recreation Sites and Trails BC. And this group shelter at the site would be a huge benefit to every recreational user right there, especially in the wintertime when it's raining a bit. There's a stove in there and you're nice and warm and dry. So I'd like to make a motion after receipt, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, just because I know the board is keeping score, Director Wally has talked about economic development and a new service at this meeting.
That's right. You guys thought I was no. You've been mistaken.
It must be election time. Yeah. Director Rice.
Thank you, Chair. And now that I see the picture of this structure, I know exactly where this is. And I believe that, you know, having it moved to someplace else, I mean, unfortunately, this is an old, this is on Pine Mountain, and it's was used by ATVers at one of the ATV clubs back in the day. And this whole site is getting run down, so it'd be a shame to see this building go to waste. So I'm fully in support of what Director Wally's doing.
Thank you. So all in favor? Oh, pardon me. Yeah, we're still on receipt. All in favor again? Shall we do it one more time? Who's opposed? Nobody? It's carried. Options.
Mr. Chair. That was
Go ahead.
carried, I suppose. I move option A, that an agreement be prepared for consideration by the board that would authorize the contribution of up to $10,000 from electoral area A, Community Works Fund allocation for the proposed Backcountry Horsemen Society's regional project, recreational project, and that the 2026-2031 financial plan be amended accordingly.
Second.
Discussion. Director Chapman.
Thank you, Chair. How confident are we that 10,000 is going to be sufficient?
Let's make it 15.
We just put the number down that they requested.
They requested 10. You're probably right. It's
You
probably
you
slightly
can
short.
amend it to say up to 15. Anything that doesn't get spent gets put back in the.
Minute to move it up to 15.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. As amended. I apologize. Okay, moving on. Director Colburn, I want to move on. Okay, full motion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Director Lanyon, number 18.
I'll do it.
I'm sorry?
I'll do it.
Oh,
He
he's gone.
left the room.
I'll do it.
Okay, thank you.
Distinguished Budget Presentation Award of Government Finance Officers Association, that the report from the CAO be received.
Second.
Mr. Chair, just a few words to Mike Harmson and his finance team for another financial award for our financial plan. We've worked hard on this for the last 7 or 8 years, making what I would consider a understandable and readable version of a budget that people can review, examine, question, whatever they like, that goes far and away above what the Local Government Act requires in terms of producing a financial plan. So props to Mike and his team.
Okay, so on receipt, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Director Dahl, number 19.
that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Second.
Mr. Chair, this is just administrative to award the contract to AIBC for the architectural and design work for the recreation project that is within the approved budget.
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. B,
That the chair and corporate officer be authorized to execute the AIBC standard form of contract 6C with HCMA Architecture and Design in the amount of $1,636,105 for architectural and engineering design services for the phased redevelopment of Strathcona Gardens.
Second.
discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Director Senate, number 20.
Yes, thank you, Chair. With regard to the Strathcona Accessibility Plan update, that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Second.
And Mr. Chair, Ms. Fisher will speak to this.
Is this the one that works? Yes, thank you. Through the chair to the directors. This report is about an update to the Strathcona Accessibility Plan. In 2014, the Accessibility Plan was adopted under a regional model, under which we have 7 partners, 8 including the Strathcona Regional District. Per the Act, the plan needs to be updated every 3 years, so as it was enacted in early 2024, we are due for that in early 2027. We've received a quote from the consultant who helped us initially create the plan, and they have quoted just under $13,000 to do the update, which will include engagement with the partners and the committee. We are seeking a funding contribution of up to $2,000 per each partner, which would bring us to about $16,000. That would give us a bit more money in case costs escalate or to cover the transportation or commuting costs of our committee members, many of whom live in rural areas. This is also an opportunity for the partners to express their desire to continue with the regional model and for us to sort of evaluate how we can better support both the partners and the committee throughout the accessibility planning process with the 3 years of lessons that we've learned moving forward. So the request is for up to $2,000 from all 8 of the partners, including the Strathcona Regional District, to complete that update. And any funds that we spend that might be below that threshold, we will update or we will invoice the percentage or the contribution, muddling my words, for the actual costs once we get those all in. So happy to answer any questions.
Anyone? No? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. B,
And that the partner organizations be requested to contribute up to $2,000 towards the cost of reviewing and updating the Strathcona Accessibility Plan.
Second.
discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. We'll take a 10-minute break at bylaws. We shall return at 2:25. Your attention, please. Your attention, please.
Director Davis, Director Kermit.
Do we have quorum?
We have a quorum,
We have quorum?
barely.
Okay, Director Von Esch, bylaw number 1.
Bylaw number 627, electoral area wood chipping and climate resiliency service. I'll move that the report from the CAO be received.
Discussion?
So, Mr. Chair, similar to the other bylaw and these following up, it's a prescriptive type of question that we have here outlining the bylaw.
Director Mawhinney.
I just had a question because I'm not sure if there is a webpage that's already provides the information about this, but I know that the board did support that a while ago. So if it isn't created, when would we expect to be able to have that information available for constituents?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have web pages in draft form, but they were dependent on, number one, the province approving these for a vote, and secondly, the board approving the question to be asked of directors, or of the electors, sorry.
So that sounds like pretty darn soon. Yeah.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B.
I'll move the ballot question to be asked of electors when voting on bylaw number 627 be confirmed as follows. Are you in favor of bylaw number 627, which would establish a wood chipping and climate resiliency service within electoral area B, Cortez Island, and electoral area C, Discovery Islands mainland inlets, with costs to be shared on the basis of converted hospital assessments, provided that the maximum amount that can be requisitioned annually by taxation of land and improvements will be 0.059 per $1,000 of property assessments within the participating areas.
Do I have a second? Thank you. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. We've already done 2. Director Von Ash, number 3.
Bylaw number 651, Cortez Island Senior Service. I'll move the report from the CAO be received.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B.
I'll move the ballot question to be asked of electors when voting on bylaw number 651 be confirmed as follows. Are you in favor of bylaw number 651, which would establish a service to support senior citizen organizations within electoral area B, provided that the maximum amount that can be requisitioned annually by property taxation is 0.054 per $1,000 of land and improved assessments for regional hospital district purposes?
Second, Director Lott. Thank you. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Von Ash, number 4.
Bylaw number 652, Cortez Island Youth Service. I'll move the report from the CAO be received.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I'll move the ballot question to be asked of electors when voting on bylaw number 652 be confirmed as follows. Are you in favor of bylaw number 652, which would establish a service to support youth organizations within electoral area B, Cortez Island, provided that the maximum amount that can be requisitioned annually by property taxation is 0.054 per $1,000 of land and improvement assessments for regional hospital district purposes?
Thank you, Director Lott. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
Number 5, bylaw number 653, Cortez Island Food Security Hub. I'll move that the report from the CAO be received.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
I'll move that bylaw number 653, being Cortez Island Food Security Hub Funding Agreement, authorization bylaw 2026, be now reconsidered, finally passed and adopted.
Who's second? Director Mawhinney. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair. Bylaw number 661, Quadra Island Legion Permissive Tax Exemption. Move that the report from the CAO is received.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
And I will move B, that bylaw number 661, being a bylaw to provide an exemption from taxation for specified real property located on Quadra Island, be now introduced and read a first time.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
I will move that the rules be suspended and bylaw number 661 be given second and third readings.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
And I will move that bylaw number 661, being Royal Canadian Legion Property Tax Exemption Bylaw 2027, be reconsidered, finally passed, and adopted.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Director Mawhinney.
Bylaw number 662, Surge Narrows Community Association Permissive Tax Exemption. Move that the report from the CAO be received.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
I will move B, that bylaw number 662, being a bylaw to provide an exemption from taxation for specified real property located on Reed Island, be now introduced and read a first time.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
And I will move that the rules be suspended and bylaw number 662 be given second and third readings.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
And I will move that bylaw number 662, being Surge Narrows Community Association Property Tax Exemption Bylaw 2027, be reconsidered, finally passed, and adopted.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Director Von Ash, number 8.
Bylaw number 663, Cortez Community Housing Permissive Tax Exemption. I move the report from the CAO be received.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried.
I'll move that bylaw number 663, being a bylaw to provide an exemption from taxation for specified real property located on Cortez Island, be now introduced and read a first time.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried.
I'll move that the rules be suspended and bylaw number 663 be given second and third readings.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried.
I'll move that bylaw number 663, being Cortez Community Housing Society property tax exemption, bylaw 2027, be reconsidered, finally passed and adopted.
Second. I'm just kidding.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Director Rice.
I think I've lost my place. Number 9. Sorry. Number 9, bylaw number 664, electoral area D rezoning, 4920 Chanterelle Way. I'd like to move that the report from the Chief Administration Officer be received.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
I'd like to move item B, that bylaw number 664 being a bylaw to amend the zoning regulations applicable for electoral area D now be introduced and read a first time.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
I'd like to move item C, that the rules be suspended and bylaw number 664 be given second and third readings.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
I'd like to move item D, that bylaw number 664 being Campbell River Area Zoning Bylaw Amendment 84 be reconsidered, finally passed, and adopted.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Director Bonesh, number 10.
Bylaw number 666 and 667, proposed OCP and zoning amendment, Cortez Island. I'll move that the report from the CAO be received.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
I'll move that the supplementary report from the CAO be received.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
I'll move that bylaw number 666, being a bylaw to amend the Cortez Island Official Community Plan, be now introduced and read a first time.
Discussion.
If I could just say a couple words.
Sure.
Thank you. Just appreciate the applicant bringing this to the SRD to consider. And I also really appreciate the Cortez Island Advisory Planning Commission reviewing it and providing input. Huge props to staff for working with that input and getting us to where we are today. I think this project's going to add some economic development to Cortez and provide some much need a place for tourists to camp and enjoy our island.
Thank you. Any further comments? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
I did see already, right?
Continue on.
Did I do C?
Yes, you got D.
Move D, that bylaw number 666 be given second reading.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
I'll move that bylaw number 667, being a bylaw to amend the zoning regulations applicable to Cortez Island, be now introduced and read a first time.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
I'll move that bylaw number 667 be given second reading.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried.
I'll move that public hearings for bylaw number 666 and 667 be scheduled for 5 p.m. on Wednesday, September 9th, 2026 at Manson's Hall, located at 983 Beasley Road, Cortez Island, and that the holding of the public hearings be delegated to the electoral area directors with Director Vanesh designated as chair.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried.
Just for my quick information, is this the public hearing meeting that Director Wally and you others were going? Okay, so transportation,
Yeah.
Meredith? Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm looking forward to hosting all the other electoral area directors on Cortez for this public hearing and appreciate staff working with us all to find a time that works. Thank you.
Okay, correspondence.
I'll move 1 through 6 and then let people poll.
1 through 6, thank you. Second. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Members' reports. Director Rice.
Thank you, Chair. I just got this information in my, by email last week, and I thought I would share it with the board. This is basically a peek at what the proposed budget is for the Vancouver Island Library going to be for the next term, so next year and beyond. So if you take a look on that, it was pretty easy to read. Campbell River is looking at a 4.74% increase. Strathcona Regional District is looking at a 4.78% increase, and I don't believe the weighted vote has changed. I believe it's still at 34. And again, I know that these numbers look high, but this is much better than what the Vancouver Island Library was proposing 3 years ago. I mean, they've really been able to get their finances in order. I think the biggest thing that I just want to reiterate is that, the challenges that the library service has is that it does rely almost exclusively on taxation. The governments, whether it be provincial or federal, doesn't provide very much money, so it really does need to fall back on that. And with the brick and mortar locations that they have, keep in mind that those are all union staff, and there was just a new union contract. There's still one more that's to be ratified. So again, that accounts to a lot of these costs. And I think that, what we're seeing is that management and the finance team are really pulling the library together. So I just thought I would share that info.
Thank you, Director Wally.
Yeah, just congratulations to that team, because this has to be the lowest percentage increase I've seen over the last 20 years, so it's pretty good.
Director Colburn.
Motion to receive
Motion to receive.
Second.
Discussion.
with thanks.
All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none? Carried. Director Dahl.
Move that the report from Director Dahl regarding the annual allowable forestry cut be received.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Discussion, Director Colburn.
If he's not going to, I'm wondering, just not specifically on this question, but I'm wondering just kind of around the table. I have found in this last year that getting a hold of anybody is extremely difficult. Getting anybody to answer your email, it's been a real challenge, especially for us. And I'm just wondering if you've seen that across the board, or if it's specifically with this one. So just through to Director Dahl, especially, or through the staff about supporting this.
Well, just quickly with the meeting, it took us probably a year to get the minister or the chief forestry, to show up. And then it's, pushing a year again to try and get answers. So it takes forever.
Yeah, it's very sad. Who was next? Director Merwini.
Thank you, Chair. And I do recognize the importance of this topic to Campbell River and much farther beyond, because there's a reference in this report from Director Dahl about the Natural Resources Committee, which has Mount Waddington sitting at that, and as well the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District. And my question or suggestion would really be that there are quite a few questions in this letter. And my suggestion would be that we forward this report and request for information to the AVICC executive and request the topic of annual allowable cut and these questions to be considered for a workshop at the 2027 convention. Then it would maybe provide more information to all of the coastal region about this topic, which seems to be fairly important and pressing. So over to Director Dahl to see if he thinks it's worth considering.
I'd second that motion.
Discussion? We've got a motion on the floor.
This is one crazy day when you've got Gerald going. And then Quadra and Campbell River agree on something.
Wow, Director Sinnott.
Could we amend that to include all the Indigenous nations after the presentation today and their concerns about jobs and sawmills and things like that? I think we're much more powerful if we're doing workshopping. You involve our First Nations who are equally concerned.
Agreed.
I'm not sure if we're on receipt yet, or
we're still on receipt.
Still on receipt. Again, sounds like there's support for that motion. Let's not forget Director Dahl has another motion in his report.
Okay, on receipt, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Next. We have a motion
I think
on the
what
floor.
Director Mawhinney said, and I'm not certain about her feelings towards Director Sinet's addition.
Amendment.
I just didn't really understand what the ask was, because I was suggesting that we send it and ask for a session or a workshop at AVICC, and I think maybe we would want to combine that with an invitation to the First Nations that are in the regional district to attend AVICC. Like, I'm not really sure how we would.
I think I understood the amendment is to, in the workshop session that you're suggesting, the impact to First Nations as well.
Okay, absolutely.
Actually, the intention was to actually invite First Nations. Unless they're sitting there at the table, it's very hard to convince people who are not connected to the resource communities how important this is.
So the amendment is to invite First Nations to AVICC for this workshop? Is that what the amendment is?
I would leave it to staff, to the appropriate groups, whether it's Lakasamuk or you invite different groups that have different tenure holders and various groups in the region. I think it's broad. I think they have to be at the table.
Yeah, I think the invitation as well as the impact would both be included in this.
Okay, great.
Second.
Further discussion?
I was just going to add that the city does already invite Wewaka'i and Wewakam to join us to AVICC and UBCM. So we'd have two nations there, and maybe the SRD could get some others. Matthew Jack.
Yep. I think we've got it.
Quadra.
Okay, Director Chapman,
Malk was not
and then
being
Director
forced to
Davis.
be anymore.
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully my memory serves me correctly, but at previous AVICC meetings, the rural directors of this board have not supported Kemp River on the forestry issues raised at the convention, and you've actually voted against them. So I like this going to AVICC as long as we make sure we have the support of the electoral directors as well, that they're going to be voting in favor of it and not voting against us.
Thank you. Director Davis, then Director Mawhinney.
I was just going to add that we should invite all of the First Nations within the SRD, because I don't know if that was
Yeah, I will.
specifically
Yeah.
stated. Okay, thanks.
Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the director's question. I think this is something different than asking for a resolution on the floor. I think we're actually asking for a workshop at the convention where we would hear from the chief forester and have an opportunity for community across the island and the coastal region to ask questions and quiz and learn more about about the topics that are in this director's report and beyond.
Thank you. So, Director Davis.
Yeah, I guess I should make another comment too. It's good to have a workshop and to have these discussions, because there's a lot of things that need to be talked about. I know we've been part of the forest industry in Tassus for a very long time, and we've seen it basically crash and burn in the last few years. Part of the problem is the fact that we had a steadily increasing annual allowable cut for years, which has led to this fall down effect. And now they're cutting down trees that are 40 years old that in some cases I planted myself. And I've actually advocated for decreasing the annual allowable cut to allow for larger volumes to accumulate. So again, that's a discussion to be had.
All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried.
And there was there was a second motion on there from Director Dahl. Oh, sorry.
I ask that the board support a letter from the SRD chair to raise these issues again with the chief forester's office.
Second.
Discussion? Director Colburn?
I wonder if this is a put on notice that we've asked AVICC to include that in the letter, that we've also asked AVICC to hold a workshop and invite him to speak to us directly, and that doesn't preclude the answers to our question in a letter format. I'm just wondering how hard you want to go. I would be in favor of that personally.
I'm not sure how to answer the question.
Sorry.
All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Thank you. Closed session, Director Colburn.
Oh, that the report from the CAO be received.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
Therefore, I would move that the meeting be closed to the public to consider matters deemed to fall within the parameters of subsections 91 E, F, G, I, K, N, and O of the community charter.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?